Breeze Nation, what is going on? This is your boy Jordan JC back again, and I'm here for another Thursday NFL draft player breakdown. And today we're going to have a good one, a more realistic option that I'm going to give you guys because you all have cracked me up in the chat talking about all of these pipe dreams and the fact that I've mentioned Arvell Reese as an option, Reuben Bain Jr. as an option. I've mentioned all of these players. Caleb Downs might be there at 25, and everybody saying, "Oh, you're crazy, Jordan JC. Let's get something realistic. These are all just clickbaity videos." Well, no, they're not. But all right, today I got a realistic breakdown for you guys, and this is a person who I think actually could be a sleeper pick at wide receiver that could really help out the Bears if he kind of comes into his own and kind of realizes his full potential. And this is someone who either can be there for you in the late rounds. I'm talking 6th, 7th round, or could be an undrafted free agent. And this is going to be none other than J.Michael Sturdivant, the wide receiver out of Florida. He also started out his college career playing at Cal, and then he transferred over to UCLA under Chip Kelly. And then his last season, he was with the Florida Gators. And so I want to talk about some of the things that I saw that really stood out about Michael Sturdivant. And again, how he can help out the Bears. This is a guy who I again, might go undrafted as a free agent. And you saw how the Bears took advantage of those situations last year. We had a sleeper in the 7th round by the name of Kyle Monangai, who had a huge impact on this previous season. And for most, I would say, is going to be a staple on this team. And as a running back in the league, could be a 3-down running back if you let go of a DeAndre Swift. The further we go along, Kyle Monangai could be that guy who could have been overlooked in so many other rounds. And so could we get another sleeper pick in J.Michael Sturdivant? Well, let's talk about it. Let's look at his credentials. 6'3", 207 pounds. He ran a 4.40 40-yard dash, a 39-inch vertical, and a 131 broad jump. Elite athletic score. He is a little bit older of a prospect. As I mentioned, he's kind of bounced around in college, going from Cal to UCLA and then to Florida in his last year. So he's a 23-year-old wide receiver. His stats for last year was 27 receptions, 406 yards, 15 yards per carry average, and 3 touchdowns. So decent numbers, right? He was kind of used in a mini role, and so not necessarily the focal point wide receiver at Florida, but you saw some traits there, and that's what we're about to get into. His strengths: extremely athletic. As I just mentioned, some of the scores are off the chart. And actually, you know who Bruce Feldman is. He always puts out a list called the Freaks List. And in 2023, he put Sturdivant on his list. And this is what he had to say verbatim. He said, the 6'3", 207-pound sophomore is the most gifted wideout the Bruins at the time when he was with UCLA have had in the Chip Kelly era. He's topped out at 23.2 miles per hour and also bench pressed close to 300 pounds and squatted almost 400 pounds this offseason. Now, that might do really well. That might be tingling to the ears of Ben Johnson, because we know Ben Johnson can squat, I believe, about 400 pounds himself. And so you might have a guy who's pretty appetizing to the Bears right there just off of that alone. Some other strengths: great size-speed combination makes him a matchup nightmare against smaller DBs. And so when you get this guy going down the field, I mean, his height, 6'3", when you're going up against 6 foot or 5'11" DBs, you just can't teach that. You know, you're high pointing the ball, those 50-50 balls, the ability to catch over his defender is a strength of his just because of his height alone. And so that's a really good size-speed combination that he has in his arsenal. He's also not just fast, but has long strides to eat up yards quickly, which allows him to be a very dangerous vertical threat. And I think specifically for him, that's where he's his most beneficial, or he's most utilized for right now, is being a vertical threat, that straight line speed where if you aren't pressing up on him and he can get past you, those long strides, he can continue to break away with that 4.40 speed. And then that height and power, that's something that could be appetizing and that he has in his bag as well. Has good body control when having to track those deep balls and make adjustments to position his frame in the right direction. And so he's someone who has a good control of his frame whether or not the ball is thrown straight at the numbers or within his catch radius. He's someone who can make adjustments constantly to wherever the ball is thrown. And if you're talking about a quarterback in Caleb Williams, who has every arm angle and every ability to throw the ball wherever it needs to, you would need a receiver that will be able to adjust to those balls that aren't necessarily right on point, right to the chest, but it could be high pointing the ball over your head or across the body or whatever the case may be. You have to kind of lunge out for a catch. And so those are some of the things that he has the ability to do. Lastly, in his strengths, he demonstrates a willingness as a blocker in the run game, using his size to engage smaller DBs. So again, this is another reason why I think that he would be a very good fit here, because what has Ben Johnson said since day one? You're a wide receiver. You want to be a part of the game plan. You want to get some balls thrown your way. You want to be a star. You want to produce. You want to be a part of everything. You got to block first. If you don't block, you don't get that rock. No block, no rock. And so that's the standard here, is we're not just trying to see you be a flashy player and get 10 receptions and 200 yards, but you don't have the ability to actually help out your teammates and be a team player by blocking for running backs on run schemes and run plays, or blocking for other wide receivers down the field, whether there's a screen pass. You need to block your defender and hold them. And this is a wide receiver, because of his frame and his size, he has the ability to do that, and he has the willingness. A lot of times when it comes to blocking and defense in any sport, it's really about the willingness to actually do your job, right? When you're not the focal point on a play, sometimes you get a little lackadaisical. Maybe you're like, all right, I'm thinking about the next play or whatever the case may be. You may not try as hard. That's what separates, I think, receivers from each other, is the ability to do the small things and the little things, the dirty work, the work that doesn't really get you recognized on the highlight plays and ESPN top 10. But when you do it, you can tell that your teammates appreciate it, your coach especially appreciates it, and that puts you in the wheelhouse to be more of a focal point and be utilized in offense. And so that's what J.Michael Sturdivant brings to a team. Now, some of his weaknesses, because it sounds great, right? You would think, based on all of these strengths, he needs to be in a third round or the second round, right? Well, a lot of things that he needs to work on. Again, weaknesses, he needs to improve his hands. Concentrated drops were an issue in college. Now, obviously, as a wide receiver, the main thing you got to do is catch, right? And that was one of the things we had an issue with, and a lot of our receivers on the Bears team, is the drops, the constant drops. Not concentrating on the ball before you're looking to find which direction you're going, or looking to see where the defender is. Focusing on catching that ball. And of course, as I mentioned before, those are weaknesses that can be turned into strengths. You got to get on that jugs machine. Got to work in the offseason at the hand strength and being able to I believe there was a video of I want to say DeAndre Hopkins or some other players, where they said that the more and more you work on your hand placement, or the I guess the width of your hand, like that also helps with you catching the ball. Like I believe like the thumb workouts or something like that, where you have the ability to open up your hands a little bit more. That will help you to kind of catch the ball and be a little bit more consistent in that. So maybe that's something that he needs to do. But I think that if he adds that to his bag, then he could be even more of a talented player, and someone who initially is overlooked and could be a name that could be really, really good in the league. Another issue of his, he struggles to create separation against physical press coverage, relying too much on his size advantage. And so, again, as I mentioned before, he's someone, if you give him space off of the rip on the hike, he's someone who can blow past you, but just because of his straight line speed and his gallop, his guide, his strides as well, long strides. But if you're talking about, say, he's pressed up against a Tyreek Stevenson, who is very good in press coverage, and he's bumping and getting real physical with you, sometimes he has a hard time kind of dismantling or disengaging those type of defensive backs, especially the physical ones that are about his size. You think of a Tariq Woolen, so those type of DBs that are, over 6 feet, that can kind of get a little physical with you and kind of stop you within your route. That can frustrate him a little bit, and so he'll have to work on those type of moments where he may have to fight through a pass, or rather through contact, and still try to catch the ball in traffic, despite the physicality. Another issue, route tree needs work. As I mentioned, straight line speed is good. Vertical threat, as an X receiver, outside receiver is very good, but there's some work that he needs to put in on the breaks, the route breaks, and also selling fakes, double moves. Those aren't things that he necessarily has in his bag, which is why that makes him less of a prospect, or as not as high of a prospect, and why he could potentially go undrafted. He doesn't have those specialty yet. But again, you pair him up with a guy like Antwaan Randle, who has plenty of experience as a coach, plenty of experience being successful in the league, being a championship wide receiver on the Steelers. You pair him up with that type of coach, that type of mentor, I believe that he can develop him into having those type of weaknesses turn into strengths over time. And again, the beautiful thing is that he's not someone that you would bring in and he has to be the focal point of the offense. We have the Roma Dunzes. We have the Luther Burtons. We have the Colston Lovelands. We got Jade Walker. We got a lot of names on our squad already at that position group, in that position group, that will take the bulk of the attention and the receptions. And so this is a player who can come in and kind of get his feet wet and kind of slow-footed a little bit until he gets his stride, whether it's being in minicamp, rookie offseason, training camp, and then the consistent off seasons after every NFL year season. I think that this is a player who will eventually kind of come into his own, and you can see him sprout into a really, really decent wide receiver eventually. Lastly, the yak ability is lacking. Usually goes down on first contact rather than creating additional yards. And I joke when I say this, but he could be the wide receiver version of Cole Kmet. We always kind of rip on Cole Kmet because every time you see his swole frame, every time he catches it, it's like he just trips over his own feet. He goes down immediately. I don't know what it is. He's searching for contact. He gets knocked and he goes down. He can't run through it despite the strong frame. And I think it's the same ability here with J.Michael Sturdivant, is that as soon as he catches it, he doesn't have that DJ Moore kind of ability where you can kind of get past that first wave, or maybe get a little bit of a stiff arm in there, or a juke move. Those are things that he has to continue to improve on in order to be a more well-rounded, more talented, more dangerous receiver. And again, those are some of the reasons why he's not necessarily a full, complete prospect yet. But you see the skill set, you see the athletic abilities and the potential that really a wide receiver freak like him has. And you can't teach the size. You definitely can't teach the 440 speed, the leaping ability, that broad jump. Like, those are things that really stand out to him, where you're talking about getting him undrafted or in the 7th round, and you could potentially make him into a pretty good, maybe even decent to great wide receiver. I'm not going to sit here and say Pro Bowl level or Hall of Famer, but he has the intangibles. He has the size and the numbers, the statistics, in a sense, physically, to really be a pretty good receiver if it all comes together. And so that's the hope, is that when you get those type of players who are going to be overlooked, who really aren't going to be either drafted or drafted very late, is that you see that one or two traits in them, and you want to build off those traits. You want to continue to enhance those traits, whether it's the size and the speed combination. He has that. Whether it's the hand place, the hand, or the route tree. Like, there's certain players that have that one thing about them that's really, really good, and everything else needs some work. And so I think that a J.Michael Sturdivant, you put him on this team with a Ben Johnson-led offense and an Antwaan Randle mentoring him, watch out. He could be pretty special in years to come in the league. And so want to get you guys' thoughts on J.Michael Sturdivant. Don't know if you all heard of him before. Obviously coming from a great program in Florida, who, again, as I mentioned before, there's certain programs and certain colleges that really spit out really good positional groups. And by all means, they have some good ones at Florida. The people I can think of, Percy Harvin back in the day. There's been some pretty decent wide receivers and speedy wide receivers that have come out of Florida that have known Kadarius Toney. And so they manufacture some decent receivers. And so this could be the next sleeper that we get, just like a Cal Manon guy who could impact this team, not necessarily right away, but maybe in the future, because he will be given the time to continue to develop behind the depth of this wide receiver group. And so, again, how do you all feel about that? I finally gave y'all somebody that we could realistically get, whether it's in the last round or we just pick them off the undrafted free agents from the rookie class. And so let me know how you all feel about it. Do you all like a potential player like Michael Sturdivant, check out some highlights from him. He looks real nice at Florida with some of the plays that he had. And so I'll be down there with you as always with that breakdown. And next time I'll again be going into some more realistic picks, probably second round picks. I'll be talking about a few more defensive ends that we mentioned in the mock draft that we had as a group, as a Breeze crew. And that'll probably be coming out probably next either Monday or Tuesday. But stay tuned for that. And until the next NFL player draft breakdown, I'm George JC. Peace out, Chicago.